Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today we are discussing the book Dune by Frank Herbert compared to Dune 2, the movie. So if you haven't seen it, I have done a book review on this. That link is above me now. And I've also done a review of the book versus the first movie. That link is also above me now. But the second movie has come out, so I thought, good time to go through it. It is July, which means it is plastic-free July, and yes, I am loosely, very loosely, aiming this towards that because Dune is about a basically inhospitable planet that you have to wear a still suit to collect all of your water in order to survive, which, if we continue going in our current rate of self-destruction, we're all going to need to wear them too, so Frank Herbert has taught us how to survive on a desert planet. Before I get into that, don't forget if you like what you see to subscribe to this channel. Your continued support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. As we're discussing the book versus the film, I will read you guys the blurb of the book first. If you haven't seen the book review versus the first film, do watch that first, as I will be discussing that. If you haven't seen the first Dune movie or read the book, then probably don't watch this video. Read it, then watch book review and the movie, or watch the first movie and then watch my review on the first movie so you can see how it develops into this one. But I'll read you guys the blurb first. The spice melange is the rarest and most valuable element in the universe. It does everything from increasing a person's lifespan to making interstellar travel possible, and it can only be found on a single planet, the inhospitable desert world Arrakis. Whoever controls Arrakis controls the spice, and whoever controls the spice controls the universe. When the Emperor transfers stewardship of Arrakis from the noble house of Harkonnen to House Atreides, the Harkonnens fight back, murdering Duke Leto Atreides. Lady Jessica, Duke Leto's concubine, flees into the desert with her young son Paul, where they are rescued by a band of Fremen, the native people of Arrakis. The Fremen control Arrakis' second great resource, the monstrous worms that burrow beneath the burning desert sands. In order to raise an army to avenge his father and retake Arrakis from the Harkonnens, Paul must earn the trust of the Fremen and lead a tiny army against the innumerable forces aligned against them. His journey will change everything. Woo! Basically, the first movie covers pretty much that, the first part of that blurb. The murder occurs, Paul and Jessica end up in the desert, they join the Fremen, and that's where it ends. There's a fight scene, a lot of escape, and then he's left with the Fremen. So you don't know how it's going to go down with the Fremen. Now, I did say the first movie corrected a few of the things in the book, but it didn't go as far as I wanted it to. For more information, watch the book review. It's an old book, released in 1965, so it's an old book. For its time period, it does do very, very well at representation and does very well at minimalizing the sexism in it, but it's still going to have a few things in there. I'm happy to report that the second movie fixed my most major issues with this book. First of all, I do just want to do a little shout out to the music in Dune because Hans Zimmer has just done a fantastic job. Do listen to that soundtrack. Underneath this video, I will put the cover that my band Wooden Elephants did of that soundtrack. I'll pop a link below and above if you wanted to watch our version of the first Dune movie theme, but the music, perfection. So I would like to read a quote for you just from the very beginning of the book, and it's a quote that I just need on my wall, if I'm honest. The litany against fear. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. That is such an awesome quote from this book, and one that, honestly, I need to frame it and put on my wall. Because, I mean, everyone feels fear. But I need to remind myself, fear is the enemy, and do not let it, overwhelm. Do not let it give panic attacks. The litany of fear. So let's go into, first of all, how this book links, in my opinion, to Plastic-Free July. First of all, we have spice. Spice is a very rare resource. Now, as the population of the world is ever growing, We're going to run out of resources, and it's already slowly happening due to global warming. Right now, the UK didn't grow enough, is it wheat that you put into flour? So we basically don't have enough flour. The UK relies on imports, but the countries it imports from also have to sustain themselves and are going through global warming. So now's the time to start growing your own garden. But resources are going to become scarcer and scarcer as we go on, which is what happens on Arrakis as well. The second thing is the rarity of water on Arrakis, which is possible to happen here. I know the sea levels are rising, but you can't drink salt water. So that's going to be fun. So water companies in the UK are already under a lot of fire. They keep polluting the rivers, polluting the sea. And recently, the water isn't even safe to drink. The Thames water has had to stop and hand out bottles of water because there is a bug in the water which is causing sickness and diarrhea. It's happening somewhere else in the UK as well. Water is going to become a problem. And the other problem is that if we keep drinking bottled water, that comes in plastic, which means you're drinking the plastic and also the production of the plastic. I mean, yeah. It could happen if the world continues as it is, which is the whole point of Plastic Free July, is to remind us what we need to do to save the earth right now, because it's not going to wait for us to do it. The last link I have to Plastic Free July is the still suits in Dune, which are suits that you must wear when you're in the desert of Arrakis. It collects all of your water, your sweat, blood, tears, and recycles it, and you drink that. I don't want to get to this stage. That is how it links to Plastic Free July. Going into the book a little bit, something I didn't mention in my book review is how the Fremen respect the land so much. It's all about not taking too much. It's about respecting it and surviving in it, which really reminds me of the life philosophies of the Native Americans, because they had this culture as well. They didn't destroy the land around them. They always left enough to come back to. Now, that is so important in this book, and it's so important for the world that we live in now, is to not overtake. Take what you need, not excess. So that is a huge theme in this book. It also used to be how the UK was run. So the UK forests are all pretty much man-made. I didn't believe it, but they were, even in the oldie worldy days, which is why they were interspersed with fruit plants and fruit trees all over the place, because you would forage in them. So they were designed to grow food naturally, as well as obviously for farmland later on. Love that. Now, going into the movie versus the book. If you can't already guess, I absolutely loved Dune 2. I thought it was honestly brilliant. The cinematography was fantastic, the music, sound design, all superb, and I liked what they did with the story. They leave in everything that I felt was important, but they changed it just a little bit. For example, we still do have, spoiler alert guys, if you haven't seen the movie, I know I've already said it, but just spoilers guys, okay? We do have the tradition of, at the end, Paul still goes to marry the princess so that he can rule the universe, because it's still standard in the book that you marry women and then you get the power from them. I don't think they could have changed this, and it wasn't done in a bad way. She's still powerful, so that is one tradition that's still in here. But what it did change, when Paul meets the Fremen, he kills a Fremen. Now, technically in the book, he inherits that Fremen's wife. Now, he can either have her as a wife or as a servant. They got rid of that, and I was so happy, because women are not property. So I love that they got rid of that. It didn't add anything to the story, personally, I felt, having that in there. So I was so happy that that was gone. The next thing that they did is Paul and Chani never marry. They are just together and sleeping together. They do not have a child, which solves the issue at the end of the book, which I know I ranted on, but solves the issue of the boy baby being killed, but the mum still being alive. She also continues being a warrior throughout, which is very important to me. So about that, guys, I'm using the old camera to film because my good camera fell outside today and I broke the lens. So I'm using the older camera. So I'm not as used to how this works, but it's a picture camera, not a filming camera. So it runs out of space quicker, all this stuff. So sorry, the camera cut out there. In the book, Jessica is pregnant before she becomes the Bene Gesserit mother. Now that means that she gets all the memories, but so does the baby. In the book, that baby is born and honestly is just quite creepy. In the film, so Dune 2, Jessica still gets pregnant, the baby still gets all the memories, and they talk to one another. But the baby is never born, and I actually prefer that. It makes the film go faster in a way, because in the book that would have been, months, years of the baby growing and things for him to join the Fremen, whereas in the movie it's a lot faster, which I enjoyed. The movie does get rid of, in the book, Chani has a lot of fights with various Fremen, which it doesn't describe, it just tells you that she is, in order to protect Paul from their opinions and things. In the movie, she doesn't do this. It actually shows Paul really becoming part of the Fremen and being accepted into their people, which I much preferred. Also, Chani didn't need to do that fighting in the movie because it shows her actually fighting in the movie and she doesn't stop, whereas in the book, that's what sort of ruined the book for me at the end, was that she was fighting all these Fremen and yet at the end didn't go to fight. It confused me, that bit. So it not being in the movie like that worked a lot better for me. Not related to the book, but in the movie, can I just say the choreography of the fight at the end between the Harkonnen prince and Paul was just... that was so amazing. You normally know how these films, as an action film, you know who's going to live and who's going to die generally. We've all watched and read a lot of books and know a lot of stories. But that fight actually had me gripped. I was fully in there. I didn't, even though I know the book, I was like, it was so close. And I also like the realism of the fight. It showed both being hurt. There wasn't just one winning. I also, and I know this is an odd opinion, but the Harkonnen prince is obviously an evil bastard. But I did love the respect he had for other warriors. He always thanked someone for a fight before he killed them, and he preferred to fight fairly. He didn't like them to be drugged up when they're in the pit, all of that. Even though he's evil, I kind of admire him in a weird way. But seriously, that choreography, superb. So the first film went to about halfway through the book. It went to where Paul met the Fremen, and I was really happy that Dune 2 went to the end of the book. So that means before the film for Dune 3 comes out, because there will be another, it left that so perfectly set up for the next movie. I get to read the next one. Now, I don't know if that one's going to be just one book or if it's going to be 3 and 4. I don't know. But I really like how it really did round off this book in the film. It didn't do, for example, I love Lord of the Rings, and I love how it is 3 books and it's 3 movies. The Hobbit, although I do watch those movies and I do like it, probably for mostly nostalgia reasons, but that's 1 book and it should never have been 3 films. It's even a smaller book than the Lord of the Rings books. It's a children's book. It needed to be a duology, 2 films, not 3. But I digress. I love how this one has remained faithful to how long the book is. Like in my first book versus the film review, I do still want to know, if you haven't read this book but you have watched both movies, do you fully understand what's going on? I'm just intrigued. Did it feel like anything was missing? Did you ever feel a little bit lost? Because when you're watching the movie after reading the book, obviously we know all the nitty-gritty, because this is a very political book and there are things missed out from the movie that I don't know, if you haven't read this, if it will make complete sense. For me, it's great and it's just cut out some needless stuff, but it does miss out some bits that could be important. Like, for example, in the first movie, it did remove the scene of Jessica in the greenhouse. It also removed the dinner party. It removed quite a lot of political intrigue for reasons, but it removed them. So I would like to know, please comment down below if you haven't read this but watched the movies. Do you agree with me? Is the second movie good? Did you feel anything was missed out? I also really appreciated in the movie how there were more Fremen women in the background. In the first movie, there was only really Chani, but in the second, there's a lot more women fighters. I know I go on about sexism quite a lot, and I go on about representation a lot, but it's because I want to see change, and having more representation in movies and books, it's not that I want to ram anything down anyone's throat. being around women and people from minorities and all the general representation, people with disabilities, the more you see these people doing standard normal things, the less weird it would feel to someone seeing it in real life. But I know I do focus on it quite a lot in these videos, but just know it's not trying to ram anything down anyone's throat. Representation changes a lot of opinions, and for me, because I'm a woman, I just see that side a lot, so obviously it's in my head a lot. 50% of the population have to deal with the sexism that misrepresentation has created. So when I see it represented well, it just means a lot, because it means then, say if a woman wants to join the army, there's going to be a lot less of proving yourself amongst men, because if women don't feel different and men don't treat women different, there'll be more women in the army. But overall, for the second Dune movie, I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it, and it really did change some of the things in the book for me. I still do love this book. I would still highly recommend reading this book, but the movie changed the parts of the book that irritated me in the end. So thank you for that. And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post my bookish pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye! So unusually, often when you read books, the book is better than the film. For part 2 of Dune, it was better than the book for me. Please don't hurt me.